This is Bringing the Darkness to the Light with Catherine Nadal, professional psychic medium.
Today's guest is Constantine Maroulis. He is best known for his iconic star turn in Broadway's Rock of Ages, for which he garnered a myriad of accolades, including a Best Actor Tony Award nomination. Constantine became a household name in 2005 during the heyday of American Idol, alongside Carrie, Underwood, and Daughtry in front of 30 million monthly viewers on a weekly basis. He channels appreciation for his visibility and success in creativity and writing, reflected in his recent single entitled Pieces, written and recorded in collaboration with producers Nate Walker and Andrew Maury, known for his work with Shawn Mendes and Lizzo. Constantine has been steadily releasing music for the last decade, plus garnering airplay on SiriusXM and featured on recent return to American Idol as a guest mentor and performer. Critics agree, and according to Disciples of Sound, this is a guy you always root for and never count out. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Oh my goodness, what an epic. I feel like we need like the Gladiator soundtrack behind that. I mean, what an epic introduction. Thank you for having me.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. Yes, I'm a big fan. I'm actually a big fan of your work with Rock of Ages, not just the American Idol part, but I really am a big Broadway person. So I have that's a soft spot in my heart for anything Broadway. So it's really a pleasure to have you on. Gosh, you've been busy, and, American Idol actually was a really good, just a springboard for your whole career. So I guess we should start there. What do you think?
For sure. I mean, anyone that says differently is, I don't know what they're smoking, because, yeah, what an incredible opportunity. Back in the day, the heyday, the whole world was watching, tuning in. It was like real life Squid Games or something, It was like fight for your life, immersive television, the family around the table, around the couch, we're all watching. This one's voting for that one. This one's voting for this one. The shocking, eliminations. I mean, it really just was something else. And frankly, we'll never see something like that again. We'll never really sort of consume, content like that really again, where we tune in and we talk about it at work the next morning in that way, and mass like that. I mean, 30 million people a night. I mean, that's wild. So for sure, I had an amazing opportunity, but I was someone that was in the business. I grew up in the business, essentially. I've been working a long time, long before American Idol. But yes, I mean, for my training before that and my experience touring and Broadway shows and stuff, it just sort of culminate in that peak opportunity for me when I was mature enough to handle it, 28, 29, turning 30, whatnot. It was, a blessing for sure, a total blessing. Thank you.
Yes, so we have to bring people back in time a bit, but this was season 4 of American Idol. And it was in 2005. And I watched a lot of American Idol. I just happened to miss that year because I was serving in Iraq with the Army. But
that's a good excuse.
It was a good excuse, exactly, right? But that was such a pivotal year, I know that there was all of these votings, and at one point the judges actually had a really big say, and then they turned it over to America to vote. And so this was the group of judges that had Simon Cowell and Paula Abdul and Randy Jackson. And who was the fourth on the year that you were there?
Well, there wasn't a fourth. It was always just Paula, Randy, and Simon. But in my audition, my actual audition, there was a fourth, because he was a guest star, and he ended up saving my butt in a way. It's Mark McGrath from Sugar Ray, the great pop ska rock band from Southern California, who's become, by the way, a dear friend of mine over the years. And Mark got me right away. Mark was like, because Simon, I think they already knew they liked me. You have to remember, we've gone through some screenings and auditions before that whole thing is on display. it's TV, it's the magic of TV. So they had a sense that they liked me, for sure at the time. But because I was older and I was hip to that, I wasn't, plucked off the farm or something like that. So I was playing into it. They were liking that I was this shaggy haired Brooklyn, rocker with a band, and I was just in Rent, the Broadway tour, and I'm straight from the road, and I was gonna break up with my band to come join American Idol type of thing, and they made a whole soap opera out of it. It was wonderful. It was wonderful television, and it's wild to think that it's 20 years, and having just been back there. Now I mentored not this current season, but a previous season. I think their last at Fox, but to go back sort of and have a spontaneous visit with Carrie just a couple of weeks ago was wonderful. We connected. She was so grounded and lovely, and just great to kind of see some of my old friends who are just some of the dearest people to me that there is. And yeah, it was really cool. It was really just good vibes for sure.
Yeah, so it's interesting, the magic of TV and everything, like you were saying. You were one of the older contestants because you said that they had kind of advanced the age, right? So
They did. Yeah, that year they had, because it was season 4, the first 3 seasons, it was like 24 or 25 and under, right? And then for season 4, they upped it to 28. So I was 28 and like, I was ready to rock. Let's go. And went down there. And yeah, I think why it impacted so well is because there were moms at home watching with their kids who all of a sudden could be like, oh, okay, there's kind of a young man on the show that I could maybe root for, and he's kind of my type also, and maybe they have tingly feelings.
you're so funny. I know. Well, I have to say that I think it was Simon that said a comment on one of the episodes that I went back and looked at. He was like, I think you get the award for like handsome, shaggy haired, something like that. And I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah,
But
it was fun.
but the best part is when I went back, I actually looked up all of I think there was like the top 10 or something, right? So you have like 10 songs to sing towards the, grand finale stuff. And you sang some pretty good songs. Like you were hanging in there. And one of them was Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody. And I was like, and you were saved on that, episode or whatever. And I was like, wow. And then episode 6, I actually watched it where they said you were like number 6 elimination or whatever. They had Paula Abdul actually speak on how she felt about the elimination and, America got it wrong and all of that. But, for me, I was really shocked because I didn't even remember the person that went out over you. And that's the thing about American Idol, because some people shoot to the top. I mean, look, like Chris and Carrie and you, but other people, they seem to fade away, right? So who is the person that, I think his name is Anthony?
Well, okay. So you said a few interesting things there, and certainly for me, like I had been cruising along. I was never saved. I wasn't like, I never was in the bottom 3. I'd never, and as far as we knew, we were basically number 2 or number 3 vote getter like the whole time, and Carrie was, out in front, but it was all good. Like we were fighting to get to the very end with her, and like we knew she was going to win. I think, I don't know, a few things have happened. I said something a few years ago, it went viral, that who knows, maybe at the end of the day, the producers have the discrepancy to make whatever choices they want on the show and say and do whatever they want. At the bottom, at the end of the day, in the fine print. So I think tossing me off the show a little early was an amazing television moment. And at the time, there was a lot going on. Idol was so massive. It was so massive. All the other networks were trying to do anything to try to knock it down, anything to get attention away. Because truly, when they were rumbling like 3 nights a week in prime time on Fox from like, I don't know, January to like the end of May, I mean, they would do anything. So ABC at the time like ran a Dateline special about Paula Abdul and one of the contestants, and there was a lot of that heat going I think I don't know, they had an opportunity to send home a popular contestant, and it was front page news for like the rest of the season. It was like until the finale, that was like all people were talking about. So I loved it because it felt like people really were supporting me. And I think that thereafter I met my producers from Rock of Ages, and, we went on to create one of the greatest modern rock or any kind of contemporary musical of all time. And I think the underdog thing played into that, helped me a lot. So, it's interesting. I don't know. I'm certainly not top of the heap type of person or name. I mean, I'm not Carrie, but I'm very proud of my body of work. I've done an array of things, and for me, it's like a long, slow burn. I am blessed enough to be the only Tony nominee in the group, and I'm very proud of that. Rock of Ages and other shows, they've been my Before He Cheats and my Jesus Take the Wheel. So, for me, like, how do you gauge success? I know some of the other people that I was on the show with, they're working really hard. In fact, Von Zell is one of the greatest singers that I've ever worked with. She actually was the second runner-up, I guess, number 3. And she's got just one of the all-time voices. She's so beautiful. She's so kind. She's got a lot of fans. She's worked with a lot of great, bands and acts over the years. She's doing great stuff. Anthony, actually, is the gentleman you were going to say earlier, Anthony Fedorov. He was so young on the show. He was still a teenager. One of the great singers. He's written musicals. He's scoring movies. He and his wife, she's a successful actor. She's been in Miss Saigon and whatnot, and they have a son. So it's like, how do you really gauge success? Bo got into the finale. Bo made a record. He's toured. He's worked hard over the years. It's everyone's sort of just like on their different path. I mean,
that's a really good point. Yeah, that's a really good point.
To be like, who's bigger, who failed, and who didn't. And if you're not Taylor Swift, then you're a failure. I mean, that's just wild, man. How can we, so in a way, like I did an interview earlier with the Washington Post, and we were talking about like the overall American idolization of just pop culture in general. Like it's the effect that it's had on pop culture is wild. And even a little bit of the disposable aspects of it too, like swiping left, we're just done, or attention span, done, next,
Yes,
Uber, show up.
that is so true. That is so true. But something that you're saying right now is really reminding me of TikTok, because before American Idol, kids would like sing into their mirror or like, sing in their living room. Now they're singing on TikTok, and some of them are actually making money. So
some of them,
yeah.
a gazillion of them.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, and we awakened this I want to be famous kind of point of view and like objective young people had, and they're just like, like a get rich quick type of thing. And, that's not the way. And so in fact, I would never trade my path with anyone because it's mine. And for me, it all happened the way it was supposed to happen. I don't envy those teenagers that had to like go back to high school after American Idol, after being on that show and touring, and then maybe they decided not to make a record with you, and then you really didn't have the guidance to kind of figure out how to capitalize on this, that, or the other, and then you're back in high school. And like, where does that, if they had the TikTok, then yeah, maybe they could curate that, more than anything, the show now is basically a way for them to develop a little bit of a social following and curate that following over the next few years, because the days of $1 million record deals are over. That's just not the mechanism anymore. That's just not how it works anymore. Like even the winner this year will, I mean, they'll get some sort of like, prize, but they're technically, getting a record deal, but it's not a guarantee for anything. They'll put you in the room this summer. You'll do some touring. The touring is not the way it used to be. You'll write some songs with some people. Hopefully you get something that is good. I mean, the days of writing Carrie's first record and Chris Daughtry's first record, and where there's like every song is a hit. I mean, that's tough. That's tough. So what they'll do is they'll try to like put out a couple of songs and see what sticks, and maybe we can get behind this, that, or the other. And maybe one of the songs will really impact. I mean, but it's about what you do after. It's not just that night and winning. It's like, okay, now I have 500,000 followers on a social platform. How can I curate that? I do want to work on my own songs. I do want to write a musical. I do want to do this, that, or the other, or tour or produce, so you have to be your own machine as well. I mean, the days of the old big rock and roll kind of contract thing, it's just a different thing now, as you know. Like the whole game has changed because of socials. It's totally different.
Yes, I think you make a good point. It's interesting. I want to talk about Rock of Ages and transitioning into the Broadway world. That has its own history, the whole story behind Rock of Ages. And some people may not realize, about the movie and about all of the kind of details to it. So do you want to speak about how they developed the play on Broadway to somehow, because sometimes you see something and you're like, well, the movie's not like the book, or the play is not like the movie, or, there's a lot of comparisons there. So can you speak on that?
I can. The show started in a bar in LA, probably, a year or two before I met any of them. They would kind of pop it up in bars, and, some notables were in the cast. It was like guys from the band Tenacious D, and, Chris Hartwick, who's a comic, and, Catherine McPhee actually was in the ensemble, and the show was long. It didn't really have like a book yet. It had some characters. It had some songs. But it was basically like a little Halloween 80s, if you know what I mean. But there was something fun there. There's something fun in writing like a kind of raunchy 80s, we're winking at the audience type of ironic musical, right? And let's face it, these songs are awesome. And that MTV 80s era, I mean, bands were literally writing songs to be on MTV, writing songs about like the guy chasing the girl, and it was like a dynamic and like a narrative in each song, not just, Tommy used to work on the docks, not just Bon Jovi, but every song had like a sort of narrative to it. They really lent themselves well to like storytelling. And that's why we got sucked into those videos and everything. So that was sort of the genesis of it. And then when I met them up at CAA, it was a big meeting. These guys walk in with like a cassette, and they like pop it in a tape deck and they play it. And I was like, what is going on? Like even then a tape was old. And they're like, this is it. It's like a mixtape musical. And I was like, this is great. I love it. At the time, they had just done a little bit of LA. They wanted to go to Vegas to test some waters. But I had some things going on in New York. Sometimes I look back and, it's funny, like the interactions, but it all worked out. Like I didn't do Vegas with them. I waited till they came to New York, till they wanted to go off Broadway. I joined then. We developed it in a rehearsal room over like 3 weeks, every day, all day, with a pretty much unknown cast at the time. And we were finding things, and we were adjusting things, and we were improvising and ad-libbing, and let's try this, let's snip that and add this. And we just were playing. And then we got in front of an audience of which we couldn't find at first. We couldn't pay people to come at first. We were giving away tickets literally. And we just built this crazy word of mouth. This is now 2008, summer 2008, let's say. Housing crisis, recession, the end of Bush years. Obama is kind of like bubbling, there's this new kind of like energy coming to New York City. We have like the cool show that like is kind of the anti-Broadway show at the time. And it was really like the right show at the right time. Like dudes that didn't go to Broadway wanted to bring their hot wives and like see the show and have drinks. We had drinks, but then what kept them there for 6 years on Broadway, even more, which is an astounding number these days, was that there's so much heart in the show. Like, yes, there's hot girls and great songs, and it's loud and fun and rocking and sexy and really funny, really, really funny. And we can drink. But at the end of the day, there was heart. And my job was to not be a caricature and to be really like the kind of straight man in the middle. Not straight, but just like the straight man, and affable, and kind of allow all of these things to happen to him. And the audience is rooting for him because he is the underdog. So I think underneath all of that, because we had that kind of winning, affable kind of dynamic, that was what really kept them there. And the drinking. Jello shots can help too. But yeah, so then we did build that word of mouth, and we did build it up, and people came, and then we announced Broadway, and people went wild. That show, it's breaking all the rules. How can this be? And then we went to the Tonys, and we got 5 Tony nominations. 1 for me, 1 for Best Show, 1 for Best Direction, everything. And we dominated the Tonys. And it was just the best night. And the show ran for many years. I took the show on the road with the first tour. I met my daughter's mother during the show, Angel Reed. And we had Milena, who's now 14, and she's finishing 8th grade. So it brought me many gifts, and brought me, I've had my ups and downs as well. Her mom and I have had a tumultuous relationship over a decade and a half, but we've been in a really good place for many years now. And you know what? It's only money, baby.
Yes. When you talk about joining Rock of Ages, you started to say that you really had to put together as a group, as a team, the direction for it. But there's so much energy, and anyone that's seen that play, I could see why there was so many Tony Awards and the nominations. What were your favorite pieces in that? Like favorite songs or favorite routines or whatever? Because that's really, to me, like the whole 80s scene, and I just love it.
Oh, well, thank you. And, the show evolved. The show evolved from its LA inception and Vegas. From off-Broadway to Broadway, we made changes, significant changes. Ad-libs that we came up with became part of the show. A lot of things, ideas that came into the room that the writer, Chris Dorenzo, was really receptive to, like, welcome into the bubble of the show. And our director, Kristen Hange, and choreographer, Kelly Devine, really just allowed us to create and do our jobs. And when you trust your actors like that, there's so much love in the room, and everyone wants to just do it for the show and make the best show possible. So yes, I got a lot of the attention and all that, but the whole experience was really wonderful. There's some great moments in the show. I love High Enough, which is the great Damn Yankees song, which is, the super group of Jack Blades and Ted Nugent and the guy from Styx, I forget.
Yes, Tommy Shaw.
I think Tommy Shaw, right?
Yep.
Can you take me high?
I love that song, yeah.
I loved it, and that was and it was my idea to put the bridge in the show. The bridge wasn't originally in the show, and I was like, oh, we have to do the bridge and the key change if we have to. They're like, no one can sing that, and I was like, oh, I can sing it. And sure enough, it's become one of the most iconic moments. The songs are really perfectly placed in the show. We were going to say earlier about the movie, there was always buzz about a movie because our producers are not Broadway producers. They made independent movies, and they made successful ones. And so the Rock of Ages thing was like this new endeavor for them. So almost from day one, it was like, oh, Tobey Maguire is going to produce the movie, right away. That was always going to be. And originally, Chris Dorenzo, the writer, wrote the movie. He wrote the first script, and he was going to direct the movie. And he was going to probably use us. And his thought was to do it more grungy and campy and fun, but earnest, more like Hedwig and the Angry Inch, it would rock. And it would be really funny, and it would look great, but it would also look like an independent film when it needed to, and it wouldn't be a $300 million production, but we would make it great, like the great musical movies that we grew up on that were pretty low budget. I mean, Jesus Christ Superstar and Tommy, you know, not exactly a highbrow production. You know, that's what made it amazing. You know, they were clever and they were creative with what they could do. But as the show grew and grew and grew, and the money grew and grew and grew, and then they were going to get a big fancy Hollywood blockbuster director, and then they're going to get Tom Cruise, like, things changed. And, you know, they basically bought Chris out, and they got kind of proven kind of Hollywood writer types. And yeah, I mean, the movie was made. I did a little cameo. They went very different with the direction of the movie. It was more like about like Tom Cruise's character, who I got to meet and hang out with. And we talked a lot about work and all of that. And he was incredible. And the movie like looks amazing, but just a completely different thing. You know, it was wonderful to see that, like, wow, this thing that we built in a little rehearsal room became something that they felt would outreach and in such a successful way that Tom Cruise and this one and that one, and we're going to spend, and the money and the record is going to be huge. And, you know, you just never know. It didn't really connect. It just didn't really connect. It found its way over the years, like on cable and certainly streaming. And, you know, I sort of equate it to some of those musicals, or even more so movies that I saw on HBO growing up that were pretty much in heavy rotation, like movies that like kind of didn't work theatrically in the theaters, but then they kind of became like cult hits on HBO, like, I don't know, like A Bronx Tale or something, right? You know, that was not a big hit in the movies, but it was on HBO, and every guy under 50 that grew up watching it like think it's The Godfather. So in a way, this whole new generation found this show that maybe didn't even know it was a Broadway musical, which is wild to me, you know? I mean, it just became this like exercise in excess of like what the show could be. It was like the furthest version of like what the show could be. And a lot of big stars in it. So it should have been something to really fuel the show for even many more years. I wonder if it helped or hurt at the time. Not sure.
It reminds me of what you said earlier in the conversation, that before American Idol, you were already involved in the play Rent. And the characters in Rent, and then you think of the characters in Rock of Ages. Do you see that bridging where there's kind of the camaraderie of the actors and the storylines kind of loosely connected in some way?
I think that's an interesting observation. I think in terms of their ages and their search for love and acceptance, and I don't know.
And dreaming.
Just
I think there was a
and
kind
and
of, yeah,
dreams. Yeah, I
dreaming.
think there's
It
a
was
big
really
dream.
heavy on dreaming, both of them. Yeah.
For sure. So I could see that. And yeah, there's just something about your gang of friends, huh? And in a place you live or work. And if you've never worked in like a bar or a restaurant, I think everyone should have to in life. Certainly.
I
And
agree.
there's
I
something that happens
actually,
there.
yeah, as a very young person, I worked in a bar, and only people that have worked in bars know the stories that of what really goes on in a bar, because it's not just the people that come to the bar, but it's the characters that work there. Like, I
Oh,
used to
that's
go
the
home sometimes, and I'm like, I don't know how they can, I don't know how they can be in life. Like, it's like, oh my God, how does anyone like live with this person? Like, there's always the obnoxious person you work with, or the one that just never's working, is always cracking jokes. It's like, oh my gosh.
Oh, such good times. Yeah, I even have a couple of friends from the old days, from long before Rent or American Idol, that I'm still in touch with, you know. And then there's this one guy, this one cat, Steve, that I worked with at the Odeon in Tribeca, which was like the hottest restaurant in New York. And we worked there probably in the 90s, sometime late 90s into the early 2000s. Just an interesting cat, you know, for sure. He taught me this drink, and I remember it was a brutal summer, and we were working there, and we would work in doubles and dying, and, you know, we would basically just want to, in between, like, go run to his place. He had this great little West Village, like, loft kind of, like, apartment that somehow he scored. He's like, yeah, this woman's away for a year, and she wants me to watch the plays. And I was like, what? I was like, what is that? That's crazy. He made a drink for me. It was like almost like freezing cold Corona, right? And he would dollop a Tabasco in there with a lime, and then shake it up, and then like, quietly let it settle. And it was just like the best summer beer I ever had. I don't drink anymore, but I just remember, and he called them Hot Lips. And I remember
Oh,
in the
wow.
early Idol, Hot Lips, in the early Idol days, like we had to fill out like, one of those little questionnaires for the press. And that thing stuck with me. They're like, do you still drink Corona with Tabasco sauce and a lime? And I'm like, nope. Do you still like to wash dishes? Because I think that was like one of my things that I liked to do. I'm like, I actually like washing dishes. And I do. I actually do like to physically wash the dishes, not just like load them into a machine. So
That's so funny. Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Oh,
I
yeah.
wanted to, it's interesting because, when I was looking into you and seeing, kind of like how you came up and everything, and your family's from Greece. And it's interesting. They migrated from Greece, right? And you were born in Brooklyn. Were any of them musical? Because there's a lot of friends of mine that live in Greece, and they're all very musical.
My brother is a very talented and accomplished artist, Constantine Maroulis. It's like Nathan without the N. He's been putting out records for many moons, and very different than me. He's more of a sort of goth and alternative artist, and more underground. And he worked at labels and is a writer and performer. And he's much older than me, but he's still performing. I think he has some concerts in the city this weekend with his act Noir. He's been in some really successful groups like Spawn Ranch and Fahrenheit 451 and Tubal Cain, and some really cool underground like Philly stuff. And so, yeah, he was always my idol. My sister did like shows and stuff and when she was younger in high school and such, but not really too into it. My mother had a nice singing voice. She sang a little bit in church. That's really it. They liked music and loved shows and loved movies and movie musicals. We loved movies. I just always loved movies and books and shows. And we would watch the Yankees together, and we loved our New York Giants. And yeah, I mean, I think definitely influence in terms of being Greek. Yeah, I mean, I definitely identify with my ancient Greek culture very much so. My grandparents came here well over 100 years ago, though. We've been in America a long, long time. But I was born in Brooklyn. I grew up in New Jersey, and we're living in Jersey. I raised my daughter here, and she's got high school starting next year. And then I'm probably going to be back in the city, or who knows, I'm in the country. Let's see where the road takes me.
So does your daughter do any singing? Has she kind of adapted anything musical herself?
Yeah, she is a very talented young lady. She doesn't have like the passion for it, but I'll tell you what, the agent calls sometimes, and we put some things on tape here and there, and it's fun. And if it's not fun, we don't do it, but she's not like, when I was 14, I was psychotic for rock and roll, for performing, for singing. I was already singing in a band, and it's just not her thing. She's an academic.
No, I get it. Yeah.
Sports, and she's gorgeous, thank God. She's nice and healthy and beautiful. And in a way, I think it's cool that she'll find her own path as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But I think it's interesting because you said even her mom is a talented person as well. So usually in a talented family, children find something as well. Yeah. That's great. I wanted to get back to what I had mentioned in the bio as well. You talk a lot about writing. Writing is a big part of your music career. So can you talk about like your process of creating individual songs, or how you get inspired by that? And, your recent single, Pieces, which we're going to play at the end of the interview. If you can talk about that, because a lot of people that listen to the show, they may not be a musician, but they may be interested in songwriting, or they may be just a musician, or they may have been trying to put together a band and feeling stuck. So any kind of inspiration you can give the audience.
Sure, sure. I've always been a writer. It just so happened that I got into musical theater where I'm performing, script and score and, well-known Broadway songbook, tunes. And I'm off at school and I'm training and all of that. And yes, I'm singing pop and rock and I'm doing jam sessions at Berkeley while I'm taking acting classes at Boston Conservatory, and then I'm in Rent and all that. So I just, for so long, I was really just performing other people's music, because that was just my job, all the while writing a bit. I used to be really just tentative about the process and a little afraid and insecure to really jump in and allow, I don't know, some of the poetry and such or journal stuff I was writing to kind of almost like translate or transpose in a way into lyric. And it just didn't click for me. And when I look back at some of my early stuff, I'm like, I could have done so much more, right? So it took time. It took life experiences for me. It took a lot of time. It took my first great co-writing sessions, where like I wrote with more experienced writers that were like, hey, let's focus on like, this and this, and let's keep it simple. And then I wrote my favorite T-shirt, which I wrote with some huge writers, Angie Aparo, and it was just one of the great experiences for me. When we were done, I was like, wow, okay, we have a great song here. And then it started to open up for me. Like with that song, the title came first, My Favorite T-shirt. And it was about this girl who took my favorite T-shirt in college and broke my heart. And at the end, when we broke up, she took everything. She took our love. She took my trust. She took all of these things I bought her and all of these things we shared. And all I wanted back was just my T-shirt. And she took that too. I just wanted it back. And it just kind of came together. We did this like counting thing we worked on. And that ended up being sort of like the model for me to write thereafter. And that seems to kind of like change every few years. But those first few years, it was like, if I can get a title, I can kind of build a story and a narrative. And then the melody will come to me, or, some chords will come to me, or someone else will pick up. Nowadays, you're in the studio, people are building a track from the beginning. You're not just on guitars and pianos. People are like building the beat and the track like just as much as they are trying to kind of thumb something out on the guitar. So like you're building a track, you're adding this, you have a song, you kind of scat your way through it, like, something like pieces like someday, go. You just kind of like putting placeholder stuff in there, right? And then you're finding things that are working, and then you try to build a narrative that makes sense, or it could be obscure. Maybe it doesn't need to make sense. It could be open for interpretation. When I was writing songs with Killer Deluxe, this like great duo in the DC area, they'd be like, all right, Connie. No, they call me Costa. They were like, Costa. In Greek, it's like a short version of Costandino. Constantine is my name. So, but when you Americanize, La Costa, it's like Costa or something, right? And they're like, Costa. So they were like, all right, upper left. So upper left meant like literally we're starting on a blank page, top of the computer screen, upper left, the flashing light, like the blinking, like we're starting upper left. Like, let's go. First line. What's the first line? So sometimes you just break it down to that kind of simplicity, like first line, like let's get the first line. Let's get the title. Ooh, that's like chorusy. Let's put this over here, so, and then we piece it together, and no pun intended. And with pieces, that's how it works. Nate and I got together. We wrote that in one night, essentially, or the production came from one night of us kind of just writing. Like we recorded everything, just scratch track, and then we took all of our notes and we pieced it together, and we basically had the song. I knew I wanted to do this kind of chromatic thing in this one part musically. It was just speaking to me like that, kind of like an ascending and descending kind of scale. It's like a like this falling concept, right? Like I'm falling,
Oh, wow.
I'm plummeting. I'm like plummeting, and I shatter. Like there was this. Remember the Terminator, the second one, where like the technology was so advanced, and the Terminator could like break into a million pieces, and he looked like this glass bubble, and he would break into all of these, shatter into like these glass pieces and come and reform. There was like that sort of imagery to me, like, can I be broken and pieced back together? Can I reform? Can I adjust? Can I navigate these difficult times? Can I piece it all together? And am I waiting for all these people to do what they need to do so I can do what I need to do? Or am I just going to do it on my own? For me, for my family? Am I going to raise the stakes and do it for myself? So there's a lot of that, a lot of, I worked this line about Jekyll and Hyde in, and of course I got to play those roles on Broadway and tour it all around the world and such. And I wrote this line, how sometimes I'm trapped between my Jekyll and Hyde, and I can still hear both inside, and it's something about like,
Oh, I love that. That is really good.
Well, kind of being like stuck between this duality of like this person everyone thinks they know, and they've kind of maybe canceled you or made their mind up about you without really even knowing you. And then that person that you want them to know, and the person that you are and whatnot. So I just think there's just like all these pieces and being pulled in different directions and such, and sort of that kind of wordplay and symbolism.
I love that, though. And I think an important part in lyrics with all songs is that so many people can relate to them, and exactly the way you said is a lot of times things feel like they're really broken apart. And then as you move into it, you realize that certain pieces are easier to put together than others. It's really about how much control do you really have over your life. Sometimes we don't have very much, right?
For sure.
So, wow, it's
For
amazing.
Sure.
So tell me about your live band, because you have all this music coming out and you have a lot of things planned. So tell me about your band.
Well, I've been playing with a few different projects for many years. I've had this lineup of like a core group from New York City that I've known. God, I've had them 10 years now, that sort of make up my solo band. That is when I go out, pretty much full band, guitar, bass, drums, keyboards. Megan would back me and do some harmonies, and everyone sings in the band. And we'd go out and play the city wineries and some theaters, and it would be a mix of some of the songs you heard me sing on American Idol, songs from my first and second record, original music, some other musical theater type stuff. So it was a bit of like a big rock and roll, review about my career. I would love to just get out there with my dream band and just perform my songs, believe me. But duty calls. People want, they want the Bon Jovi, they want the Journey, they want the Queen, they want some of the goofy songs I sang from American Idol. And maybe, just maybe, a song like Pieces can really impact and help propel me to get out there and just promote the song. I would love that. I would love that so much. I don't know, maybe I pick an all-new band. That could be fun too. This song has a bit more production and a bit more, new age sounds on it, or, more modern sounds for me. So it's not just a guitar, bass, and drums kind of sound. It's a band sound, but you can hear there's some real kind of modern pop production on it. So maybe there's a different band, but I'm out there still. So I'm playing solo shows. I have shows coming up on the West Coast with my family from Rock of Ages, Broadway's Rock of Ages band. It's going to be me and Joel Hoekstra from, of course, TSO, Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and Whitesnake, and Cher, and Night Ranger, greatest shredder in the world. He and I are going to lead a fantastic band, basically the band from Rock of Ages on Broadway, and we do concerts together, all over the country. So it's not always me, it's not always Joel, but these shows coming up are going to be he and I, and a great band with Josie and John Weber and Winston Roy from the original Arsenal in the band. And I have shows with my tribute, Foreigner's Journey, also known as FJ, fjtribute.com. We have tons of shows coming up. And of course, that's, the great songs of Foreigner and Journey, but we work some great Rock of Ages moments in. We do a song or two of mine. We'll surprise people with a Toto mashup, as an encore. People go nuts. We have a bunch of shows coming up. I'll be in Cincinnati and North Carolina. I'm all over the place with them as well. And so I'm playing shows all summer. Just did a little movie called World Building with Ethan, who played white boy Carl from Shameless, the great show on Showtime with William H. Macy and all the famous actors. And we just did a movie together. And I did a movie at the end of last year, I'm hoping comes out later this year, called Original Sound with Eric Stoltz and Bridget Moynihan and Laura Morano, who was from Ally and AJ on Disney. She's amazing. She plays a little pop star, and I play like a jerk. I play a jerk music producer, but we have a good time in that. And yeah, I'm gonna see my daughter through middle school graduation and a fun summer.
Yes. Well, this is really exciting, though. I want you to be able to plug all your social media and how they can follow you on all these upcoming events.
Well, Pieces, by the time you hear this, will be, streaming and beaming worldwide on all major platforms. You just go to, Constantine Maroulis on Spotify, Apple Music, any of the other streaming sites. It'll be everywhere. As we're talking tonight, it's nearing midnight, so it's nearly May 9th, and we're dropping Pieces at midnight, which is pretty cool. So yeah, you can find that anywhere. You can go to ConstantineMaroulis.com. You can go to @ConstantineMaroulis on Instagram. Unfortunately, if anyone from Meta is listening, my artist page on Facebook that I've curated for like a decade and a half, it's got like 250,000 followers, was hacked really terribly. And it now shows like animal abuse and AI stuff and porno stuff. It's still got a lot of my name stuff on there, but they hacked, and we've not been able to get it back. And it's connected to other Facebooks, so it's such a bummer that there's people that do that.
It's too bad, yeah.
But if you go to ConstantineMaroulis.com, all the socials are there. I'm on X, mainly retweeting sports and politics, but I'm easy to find. Mainly Instagram. You can find me on Facebook as well. But there's a personal page out there.
Wow, very good. Well, it has been a pleasure to have you on. I look forward to all this stuff happening in your near future. And tomorrow morning, I'm downloading Pieces, and we're going to be listening to it now.
Oh, you're so sweet. And thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service. And I hope to see you at a rock and roll show real soon.
Yes, I can't wait to see it. Yeah, I would definitely check out the Joel shows with you because he's amazing as well.
He really is. We're a good little duo together for sure. And who knows, maybe you'll see some more of those in the near future.
Very good.
But as I usually say, peace and love, but this time I will say pieces and love.
Thank you again, Constantine. It's been a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you, love. Bye now.
Thank you.
Let go of all this automatic drama, static clinging to my karma. Clean it daily through the social fabric laundry. Oh no, another part of me's gone. I need another rain check so I could check out of this roundabout, pulling down. All the clouds are coming out, tomorrow isn't coming out. Just hold a little longer, bound to be a second later. I could take a breath and scream it out loud. Not gonna wait till someday, waiting on my life to just let go. Tragedy increases all this gravity. I've had to face the past to see me trapped between my Jekyll and Hyde. And I can still hear both inside. Tell myself I'm holding on a little tight, a little long, and life is short, so move along before another part is gone. Take a leap, lose control. It takes a little losing hold to make it right, and making all my own stories yet to be told. asleep, now I'm wide awake. The holes are running deep and I can find a way. Got nothing more to keep, I can hide away. Can't wait another minute. Time is up, I've had enough. I make my diamonds from the rough. I keep them on the chain with my fingers crossed. Can't take away the pain, but I can shake the loss. 'Cause I'm not gonna wait till someday. Been waiting all my life to just let go. Never wanted half of something. Gonna place the pieces till I'm whole. Not gonna wait till someday. Been waiting all my life to just let go. Never wanted half of something. Gonna place the pieces till I'm not gonna wait till someday. Been waiting all my life to just let go. Never wanted half of something. Gonna place the pieces till I'm
You have been listening to Bringing the Darkness to the Light with Catherine Nadal, professional psychic medium, Dream Central Station, LLC. My audio editor is Al Hemberger at the Loft Recording Studios in Bronxville, New York. This is WNEW 102.7 FM radio.